In this module, we're going to look at the Office Online Server. We're going to cover exactly what the Office Online Server is, how to install it, and then how to integrate Office Online Server with Exchange 2016. So what is this Office Online Server? Basically, it is a server that provides a web-based viewing and editing experience for Office documents, and you can integrate it with Exchange 2016 and also with SharePoint Server 2016 and Skype for Business 2015. When you integrate Office Online Server with Exchange 2016, Office documents that are attached to emails can be viewed and edited within the Outlook on the Web interface without needing to download the file to the local computer. That makes Office Online Server fairly useful for some particular scenarios. It's useful for kiosk workers who tend to use shared computers that do not have the full Office application installation. Kiosk workers are also typically users who require only occasional viewing and editing of Office documents, but Office Online Server is also useful for remote and mobile access scenarios, and basically any situation where Outlook on the Web is used and where a requirement to edit or view Office documents that are attached to emails might exist. Office Online Server is not a lightweight application that you can just throw on any multi-purpose server. You should use the same server sizing guidance as SharePoint Server 2016 to size your Office Online Server. Don't install the Office Online Server on web servers or servers that have other applications that use port 80, port 443, or port 809. 80 and 443 will be commandeered by the Office Online Server for its own use, so they can't be shared with other applications. And port 809 is used for communication between Office Online servers when you deploy multiple instances. Don't install the full Office applications on the Office Online Server. They're not required and they will just get in the way and cause problems. And don't run Office Online Server on a domain controller, directly on an Exchange server, directly on a SharePoint server, or directly on a Skype for Business server. It is a server role that is designed to be installed on its own dedicated Windows Server instance. Office Online Server uses HTTPS, so you will have a certificate installed on that server. The certificate must include the internal and external URLs that you're planning to use for access to the Office Online Server. Those URLs can be the same, much like the internal and external namespaces for Exchange itself. If you're using separate URLs for internal and external access, of course, both those names must be on the SSL certificate. There are a few different ways that you can deploy Office Online Server. The most simple is a single server farm using HTTP. This is not recommended. You should not use non-HTTPS for your Office Online Server in production. However, if you're just spinning up a single server for testing purposes, temporarily, just for some quick pilot action, then you can run on HTTP just for that short period of time. However, if you are using HTTP, it's not compatible with Skype for Business Server 2015. You can deploy a single server farm using HTTPS. So all Office Online servers are installed as a farm, whether you have a single server or multiple servers, and you can have multiple farms as well. You can also have, of course, a multiple server farm using HTTPS, in which case a load balancer will be required. Office Online Server is a stateful application. The load balancer will need to be configured for persistence so that users maintain a connection to the same Office Online Server during their session. So let's go into the Globomantics environment and look at preparing to install the Office Online Server. We're logged onto the server in San Francisco for Globomantics that is being used for Office Online Server. And first, we just need to install some Windows features. There is a rather long command required to get those Windows features installed. You can find that command in the demo files that are provided with this module. So just copy and paste that command and run it and wait for that installation to complete. After restarting the server, there are some additional requirements to install. First is the .NET Framework 4.5.2. That's the current version that is used for Office Online Server. But of course, anytime you're deploying this in the real world, you should always double check those requirements on Microsoft TechNet. Visual C++ is also required, as is the Microsoft Identity Model extension. So we just need to go ahead and install each of those three components. Well, Globomantics is going to do the right thing and deploy this Office Online Server with HTTPS, which means we're going to need a certificate as well. Now, for a server with IIS installed, you can use the Internet Information Services Manager to request that certificate. Look for the Server Certificates section and create a certificate request. So just step through that certificate request wizard, filling out all the information, and then choose a location to save the certificate services request. So very much like acquiring an Exchange SSL certificate, you just need to take the information in that CSR and submit it to a certificate authority, and then download the certificate that they issue. After you've been issued the certificate, we can return to IIS and complete that certificate request. The friendly name that you provide while completing this certificate request will be used again shortly when configuring Office Online Server. So choose something intuitive that will make sense during that configuration stage. Well, that takes care of the SSL certificate preparation. And as you can see in this example, Globomantics has chosen to use officeonline.globomantics.biz as the namespace for Office Online Server. So that name will need to be added to the DNS zone for Globomantics so that clients and servers will be able to resolve it. So on one of the DNS servers, just need to go into the globomantics.biz DNS zone. The IP address for the Office Online Server is 10.1.100.8. So we just need to add another A record for Office Online to that same IP address. If you were planning to deploy a load balanced farm of Office Online servers, then the IP address you would use for the DNS record, of course, would be the IP address of a load balancer. Well, that's all the preparation tasks. We've got the server installed and the prerequisites installed on top of that server. The certificate is ready to go and the DNS record is in place. So now we can move on to installing the Office Online Server. Okay, so staying in the Globomantics environment, let's look at installing and configuring Office Online Server. The Office Online Server is provided as a disk image or an ISO file that you can download from your Microsoft Volume Licensing portal. I'm just going to mount the ISO here on the server, and then we can just run setup. Now, apart from the license agreement to accept and choosing a location to install the Office Online Server, there's really nothing else to do during this setup process. The setup process itself is super simple, just a couple of things to do there and then wait for it to finish. That setup process has completed. Don't need that window anymore. Jump into PowerShell, and this is where we'll be configuring the Office Web Apps farm. So the commandlet to run is new Office Web Apps farm. We define an internal URL and an external URL. So this is very similar to configuring Exchange virtual directories. The certificate name is also defined, and you can see that the friendly name of the certificate that was specified while completing the certificate request is used here in this command. And then finally, editing enabled, which, as the name suggests, enables document editing. There's one question to answer regarding licensing. You should always check that you're appropriately licensed for Office Online Server and its different features. And after a few moments, that Office Web Apps farm has been successfully created. The next step is to integrate the new Office Web Apps farm with Exchange 2016. But before I do that, let's just take a look at the current experience for Outlook on the web users when they have emails that contain Office files as attachments. So here's an example. Dave Bedrat has sent this user Adam Wally a course feedback form. It's a Word document. And at the moment in Outlook on the web, the only option Adam has to view or edit that document is to download it to the local computer, open it in the full Microsoft Word application, edit it, reattach it to an email and send it back. So there's quite a lot of friction in that process. The user may not have Office installed, they may be on a mobile device, and this is where the value of Office Online Server really comes into play. Well, now that the Office Online Server has been installed and configured, it's time to integrate Office Online Server with Exchange 2016. Integrating Office Online Server with Exchange involves configuring Exchange with a discovery endpoint for Office Online Server. There are two places you can configure the discovery endpoint. One is at the organization level, which will then be used by all of the mailbox servers in the organization, and the other is at the mailbox server level. Now, the reasons that you might choose to use the mailbox server level is if you have multiple Office Online Server farms and you want to define a different farm for different regions of your network. You would also use the mailbox server level configuration if you were still in coexistence with Exchange 2013. But Globomantics is a pure Exchange 2016 environment at this point, and there is only one Office Online Server farm being deployed, so we can configure at the organization level. The set organization config commandlet is used and the WAC discovery endpoint is defined. Use the Office Online Server URL and then just append /hosting/discovery. After that change has been made, the mailbox servers will not recognize that discovery endpoint configuration until their Outlook on the Web app pool in IIS has been recycled. That will happen automatically. Those pools recycle themselves automatically. So if you were just to wait hours or perhaps a day, then it would take effect automatically for you. If you're in a rush and you want the mailbox servers to pick up the change immediately, you just need to recycle the MS Exchange OWA app pools yourself. Now that will cause existing Outlook on the Web sessions to be disconnected and users will need to log back in. But if you're planning this change for outside of business hours, that might not be such a big deal. So in Globomantics' case, let's go ahead and recycle those OWA app pools just to speed things along, and then we can test the change. So returning to that Outlook on the Web session, we just need to give it a refresh and have a look at that email with the Word attachment again. And now there is an option to view the Word document without having to download it first. So that Word document opens in a fairly seamless experience right there in the web browser, and the user can choose to edit if they want to. Make any changes that they need to the document, and then they can simply send it back and the recipient will get the updated document, all without having to download it to the local machine and without having to open it in a locally installed Office application. So that brings us to the end of this final module where we looked at Office Online Server, installing and configuring the Office Online Server and then integrating it with Exchange 2016. Well, let's recap what Dave has been able to achieve for Globomantics as we work through this module. Dave was able to configure high availability for client access in Globomantics, and they chose to use a DNS round-robin solution for that. Dave provided secure mobile access to emails and calendars for Globomantics users by configuring mobile device access policies and using quarantine to manage the approval of mobile devices. A hierarchical address book was configured to represent the National Globomantics organization and that organizational structure. And to improve the Office document viewing and editing experience for Outlook on the Web users, an Office Online Server was deployed. Well, you've made it all the way to the end of this course. Thanks for staying with me. But what should you do next on your journey to preparing for the Exchange Server 2016 certification exam? Well, look out for additional Pluralsight courses in this series. And if you're interested in some additional reading, there is the Exam Ref 70-345, Designing and Deploying Microsoft Exchange Server 2016 book from Microsoft Press, and you can find that from all major booksellers. Thanks for your attention. I look forward to seeing you in the next course.